We're here to talk, we're here to make a statement, but above all, we're here to debate. Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply,
then you don't understand it well enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Continuing in the spirited fight against corruption, our motion today is cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption.
And proposing this motion, we have Machakos Boys High School.
And opposing the motion, we have Tala Girls High School.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Corruption, corruption, corruption. I'm so sick and tired of this word every day in our lives. Muasa John from the Great Machakos School strongly proposing the motion that states cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. So, what is this word corruption? Corruption is a form of dishonesty undertaken by a person entrusted with a position of authority, often to acquire personal benefit. What is a cashless transaction? A cashless transaction is a type of economy whereby you don't pay, accept, buy, or sell anything using physical money, but instead use other means, e.g., Visa cards, debit cards, or even mobile money transfers, for example, the M-Pesa, Telegram, Western Union, and all the rest. So now, corruption has been on the rise in Kenya. And why? Because, you see, when you have liquid money, it's not easy to track one's transaction, hence reducing the accountability rate. But when the transactions are cashless, it is very easy to track how funds are used, and more interestingly, you can be able to track it exactly to the source. For example, the M-Pesa. You see, M-Pesa, according to Communications Authority of Kenya, has over 21 million subscribers, which is 2/3 of the population. So I don't see why, if over half of the population is willing to use M-Pesa, why we can't make our system cashless. And you know the interesting thing about M-Pesa? Every single transaction can be traced back. And that's why when using M-Pesa, you send money to the wrong person, you're able to trace it back, you know where it is sent from, who it went to, and exactly how much was sent to the person. Interestingly, in Kenya, M-Pesa, according to the Communications Authority of Kenya also, in the first quarter of the 2017-2018 fiscal year, registered an increase from 714 billion Kenya shillings to 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings, which is an increase of 64% in 3 months. And all this money is accounted for. Conversely, a report posted yesterday on television by the Citizen Television indicated that the rising number of scandals in Kenya, the NYS scandal, the National Cereals and Produce Board scandal, and the Kenya Power Corruption scandal amount to almost 15 billion Kenya shillings lost and untraceable. Even the Directorate of Criminal Investigations cannot trace even a single cent how this money was lost. And why? Because the exchanges are done using fluid money, which of course, if I give you right now, nobody will know if I gave it to you. Nobody will know how much I gave it to you. So you see, in Kenya, corruption is so high that these 15 billion Kenya shillings stolen from taxpayers, when converted to 1,000 shilling notes and packed into 2-ton pickups, is equivalent to 12 pickups. 12 full pickups, fully stacked with 1,000 Kenya shillings notes. All this is money from the taxpayer. A taxpayer waking up in Runda, another taxpayer waking up in Kibera. All their money not accounted for. All because of a system that cannot be accounted for. Let us introduce the cashless system in order to account for our money. Let us do our taxpayers justice. Let us give them value for their money. Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
I simply cannot sit down and let these handsome guys lie to us. I can't. Gloria Momo from the Tala Girls High School strongly opposing the motion that cashless transaction will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. Cashless transaction is an alternative to physical cash payments, while corruption is the state of impairing moral principles, virtues in our society. You said something about M-Pesa. Well, details, when you go to an M-Pesa agent, you always leave your details there. Details are got from the agents and are used to con people. How many times have you gotten calls from people saying that you've won money and you need to send a certain amount of money to them so that you can receive that money. Why? They got your details from the M-Pesa agents. Thus, it is not exactly safe for us. First, we have the poor and the illiterate people in a society who form a large part of our nation. To be approximate, 38.3 million. This is as per the Daily Nation of the 24th of February 2018. 38.3 million of the Kenyans swimming in poverty. While you are here introducing cashless transactions, why can't we first eradicate the poverty among our people? They are Kenyans like us. Kenya does not belong to the rich people. The world does not belong to the rich people only. Why should we make those people feel left out of the country or the world at large? Even when these transactions are carried out, of course, these transactions are cashless. Those who do not have the knowledge, who of course are the illiterate, will have to pay those with the knowledge to undertake the cashless transaction. That's where nchi kitu kidogo. Until when? Until when will you hear about corruption? We first have to fight other vices in our society before we can start thinking about corruption. Plus, corruption is not only limited to bribery alone. Second, cashless transaction is expensive. Let's give an example of where the Kenyan government borrows money from the United Nations. When the government borrows money from the world nation, the bonds and loans comes with interest. This interest are charged. It leads to more costs as compared to doing it with cash, physical cash. This is why I strongly oppose that cashless transactions will be the greatest step towards ending corruption. When the government uses this money, it will have to get another source to replace where it took the extra money to pay for the interest, where it took extra money to pay for the hidden charges. And from there, we are able to curb corruption. I rest my case.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
I am here to proudly propose this motion. Now, let's take a business point of view. Cashless transactions are actually faster and more instant as compared to monetary policies. But first, let me correct my beautiful opponent. All M-Pesa transactions have unique codes, and in every transaction, all of these transactions are accounted for. So if you are conned, that is not a Safaricom number. Cashless payments are instant, and this will help the government in its delivery. It will be more efficient in delivering these funds to the people to help them build social amenities. Now, in India, the government saved around $9 billion in less than 4 years due to this cashless system. This is according to Quora.com. Now let's think, $9 billion. Ponder on that. Now, on 26th of May 2018, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission chairman, who is Mr. Philip Kinusu, said that 608 billion Kenya shillings are lost to corruption every year. This is $6.8 billion. $6.8 billion. And we still have people who are hungry. We still have people who need water. Inflation is increase in prices of basic necessities. Now, if we introduce this cashless system, it will lead to low inflation rates. Now, in India, let's take a case study. In India, they banned the 500 and the 1,000 rupee note. And this made a drastic drop in crime rates in Mumbai. Now, crime rates including burglary, robbery with violence, and bank robbery. If we introduce this cashless system, they will not have to store money in banks. We will be trying to save ourselves from being robbed, because what robbers want is actually money to survive. So let's think. Do we want to increase the crime rates, or just decrease the crime rates and keep ourselves in peace? Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Garrett, Chelsea, Tala girls, strongly opposing the motion that states cashless transaction will be the greatest steps towards ending corruption. First, I would like to counter my colleague here, who has just said that M-Pesa has a unique code. Yes, it has. But canceling the transaction is difficult for people because it only takes 25 seconds. Only 25 seconds. What about when this person has already withdrawn that money? How will you regain that money? And someone has already withdrawn that money from the M-Pesa and used it and even thrown the SIM card. First, it leads to compromisation of privacy. We purchase goods in companies and organizations, and our information is left on those databases. What if these employees work hand in hand with the hackers to retain our information? How will this fight corruption? How? How will this promote corruption? How will you feel when you're defamed? How will you feel when you get large amount of money stolen from your account? How will you feel? Imagine in a situation that you wake up in the morning and you go to a bank to withdraw money and there's nothing there. All because of these hackers. There's nothing left for you there. Yet you've struggled. You've really struggled for this money.
The proposers have been asked, how will cashless transactions fight systematic and political corruption? The opposers have been asked, how will somebody lose money in their bank account, yet every time a transaction is made in their account, a message goes directly to their mobile phone? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer your question.
We all know transition is inevitable, and sooner or later, we are all going to conform to the technological advancements of our financial systems. From the great Machakos School, Mutinda Linus, here to oppose the motion. First, to answer the question from the audience, the cashless transaction will be able to track all the transactions in any organization, in any country. It will be able to track all of them. We'll be having log files to show who sent money to who. We won't be having stories of any physical cash transfer, because this physical cash transfer is one of the reasons why you have huge scandals. So everyone will be having their own account, and you being involved in corruption activities, you'll soon be found. And then to correct my beautiful member on the opposition side, those 25 seconds you're given by M-Pesa, if you have made a wrong transaction, are enough. You send a message, a reply, a code, that you have sent money to the wrong person, and they can be able to stop the transaction. And if not the case, they can also be able to track that person, where he withdrew the money, which agent, which line he used, and I'm very sure with that, people can trust this system. Then, to support the reduction of petty crimes, like the local bribes. For instance, in Argentina, the local bribes have reduced from 3.6 to 0.3%. This is a research done by the World Economic Fund when they implemented the cashless system 2 years ago. It's really beneficial, and they are saving a lot of money, which would otherwise have been lost due to corruption. This cashless system also ensures that there isn't any use of counterfeit money. This is because there isn't any physical cash involved. Take, for example, a trader wakes up in the morning, does business all day long, and when he goes to the bank to deposit his cash, he is shocked to find that the cash is counterfeit and he can't deposit any of it. What a loss he will have. And this counterfeit cash is the same cash which is used to fund terrorists. So, if we adopt this cashless transaction, we'll also be able to find those who are funding the terrorists. It will help us in very many sectors, apart from corruption. I rest my case. Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would like to answer my opposer who say that when you have 25 seconds, you can be able to get back your money. Well, let's take this cashless transaction. Remember, even it's worldwide, yeah? So let me say, for example, an old grandmother gets this, that she has transferred money to a person that she doesn't know, and she needs help because she doesn't know how to use these cashless transactions, these methods. Let me say, for example, that M-Pesa. She doesn't know how to use it. Let me say, she can take something like 30 minutes. Come on, her money will be already gone, someone will have already withdrawn it, and the person maybe will have blocked the line. And so when we use cashless transactions, actually to my other friend, I'd like to answer you by telling you, in banks, yes, they record all that stuff, but we still have hackers. And the people working in the bank can work hand in hand with, maybe they're planning to steal, maybe even them, they are involved there. So I don't think cashless transactions actually will be applied there. And so cashless transactions are prone to cyber frauds. And this is a form of corruption. You'll find that I have, for example, credit cards. Someone steals my credit cards. My credit card goes to the bank, withdraws money, and it's not me. And that person may use that money, for example, terrorism. You find that people come and arrest me because I don't have proof for the person who has withdrawn money instead of me. You find that they harass me, I'm arrested, and I don't know what the heck is going on. So come on, you can't tell me that cashless transaction will be the greatest step towards ending corruption, because even it contributes to corruption, because even those terrorists, they use that method to steal, because when they use this solid cash, it's easy to find them. But when they start using these wireless or cashless transaction methods, it makes them to be involved in their evil ways. Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute for a final submission.
First of all, when we say cashless, we mean that there is no money being used. So ponder on that. Now, I would like to bring to the contest something you have never known. According to Transparency International, the Corruption Perception Index, actually these are standards which are used to judge the measure of corruption in a country. And the higher the percentage, it means that the less the country is corrupt. Now, Denmark was ranked first out of 176 countries with a CPI of 94. Where was Kenya? Kenya was ranked 145th with a CPI of 28. Just how corrupt are we? Let's ask ourselves that. Denmark introduced the cashless system 2 years ago, but by 2030, they want to be completely into cashless transactions. Denmark is a very good example. Why not follow it? Why not reduce the poverty? Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for a final submission.
First of all, the proposers never answered the question from the audience how cashless transaction is going to be used to solve political corruption and system corruption. I have a dream that one day corruption will be a thing of the past. But my dream will remain just that, a dream. This is because cashless transaction cannot end corruption. There are many other factors that need to be considered, like good governance, for example, transparency and accountability from the government and also from the good citizens with goodwill. There is also legislative oversight, judicial and social service reforms. It also depends on the objective of the cashless transactions. Is it to stop petty corruption at lower level, that is, or system corruption and political corruption? Thank you.
I'd like to start with the girls. You are all composed on stage. The first speaker did a good job, but then I felt like she needed to show clearly the relationship between cashless transaction and the corruption so that the idea comes out clearly. There's a point where I felt like you were digressing. the song was relevant. Inchi ya kitu kidogo, it is quite relevant to the motion. The second speaker, you've done good rebuttals. Jennifer, you've also done a good answering of the question, and generally you are a good team. That was commendable of you.
Machakos Boys High School. John Muara, good introduction, good mastery of content. You showed passion and conviction in your work. Well researched, you reported from reliable sources. And then you also talked about yesterday, something that was said yesterday on Citizen Television. Instead of saying yesterday, just give the date. Yes. And then Enoch Muteti, good cross-examination skills, good mastery of content, and your presentation was generally good. Linus Mwema, good introduction, exercised passion and conviction in your speech, and you're well researched, you quoted from reliable sources. Thank you.
Down to the most important business of the day. Now that the debate is over, we have the numbers. Let us appreciate Tala Girls High School for scoring 67% in this debate. And let us appreciate today's victors for scoring 73.5% Machakos High School. A job well done to both schools.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, debate can never be debate without competition. That's why here at the Great Debaters Contest, we encourage competition amongst young minds such that we can propel their ideologies to make Kenya a better place. Here at the Great Debaters Contest, until next time, I have been your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. See you next time.